there was war brought to our shores, we would respond in a very poor way and we would lose. And then we would be shit shocked that we lost. And then we'd look for somebody to blame. And it wouldn't be the people who got us into this mess. No. It'd be Donald Trump or something like that. Potash. The other thing I was talking about yesterday, just before we move on from the war footing situation, is the only people, and I said this as a joke yesterday, but it's really not much of a joke. It's very true. The only people who look like they're able to fight a war in England are the people who the government is importing and putting up in hotels. You could also call them barracks, although they're not putting them in hotels anymore. They're actually housing them on military bases. Not weird? Not weird? It's just strange to me. So the people who are being put up by the government on military bases, they look like they're ready to fight a war, but the British citizens, nope, and the Canadian citizens, I would dare say no. Potash, Trump has brokered a deal with Belarus, and they're getting potash from Belarus. Who needs Canada? And so here are incoming tariffs on Saskatchewan, and yikes. Right? That's not going to be good. Scott Moe's going to be upset. He is upset in today's show as well. Terrorist attack in Australia. We're talking about that with regards to the Islamification or the Islamic attacks across the West. And I've got a very in-depth look at this at the end of the show today. It could have been something we started with, but if I started with that, we wouldn't have gotten to the other Canadian news. And there's a lot of Canadian news. I promise you, a lot happened yesterday. A lot happened overnight. BC land laws are impacting money. So the premier has created a situation where the banks find it too risky to give people money for land. And so the province itself is going to have to insure these loans with money from the province, taxpayer backed. Yikes. Again, not so good, right? And OneBC is imploding. Yesterday started like any other day for Dallas Brody and the OneBC party, and ended early this morning in Dallas Brody being removed from the leadership of OneBC, being replaced by Tara, and I can't remember her name, but we'll get there in a second. And Wyatt Claypool came on for a short period of time, and then he's the chief of staff for Dallas Brody, and he's been removed along with Dallas Brody. So lots to get to. Let's get to it first. It's crazy. It's a crazy town. Dallas Brody says, this is yesterday before everything happened. So 11:22 a.m., everything looked normal, right? She's sharing Francis Widdowson's thing. She says, I hope UBC upholds open debate better than its Victoria counterpart. See you on January 22nd. So they're going to go, Dallas Brody, Jim McMurtry, Francis Widdowson. They were going to do this thing. I don't know if this is still on, but things started to happen, and Kian reported OneBC leader Dallas Brody has fired her most senior staff. This is on December 12th, who were reportedly undermining her leadership. Brody has tapped Wyatt Claypool as interim chief of staff, according to multiple sources. Isn't that strange? Isn't that weird? It's a little weird. OneBC is screenshotted Dallas Brody's image of her post, and she says, Dallas Brody says, we're experiencing technical difficulties with the onebc.ca emails. Until we get it fixed, please contact us at this Gmail address. And OneBC official policy, or the official account for the party, says the email in the screenshot below is not an official party line of communication. The party can be reached at info@onebc.ca. So if you want to email us, that's where you do it, not in this Gmail address that Dallas Brody is pushing. Tara Armstrong, that's the name I couldn't remember, says, I've lost confidence in the leadership of Dallas Brody. More to come. So somebody said, what happened? We don't know what happened. And I said, it was Wyatt Claypool. I don't know what happened. Excuse me. But it was Wyatt Claypool. And I think that there's some merit to that, just a little bit. So I don't know, man, but it seems very, very weird. Cosman says, OneBC website now lists Tara Armstrong as the leader of the party. So elected MLAs, excellence in British Columbia, Tara Armstrong, leader. There you go. So we'll see how this whole thing plays out. What do you think is going to happen? Cosman is responding to OneBC, and here's a little bit more fleshed out part of the story. OneBC says Dallas Brody has been removed as leader of the OneBC party by the party's board of directors. There have been multiple recent attempts by agents, like a chief of staff maybe, instructed by Miss Brody, to obtain control of party assets without authorization, including multiple attempted breaches of security systems, communication software, and databases of the party. The board has taken steps to protect membership and other sensitive data and has commenced an external investigation into the matter. interesting. My theory, my hypothesis is the new chief of staff was brought on and was told by the leader to bring, these, go get these emails and the databases and make sure that they're under, whatever, under our control type deal. Like, you're the chief of staff for the leader now, so you've got lots of authority, right? And so I would imagine that the actual practical breaching of the database and stuff was done by somebody with technical knowledge. Maybe the chief of staff himself, maybe somebody who was hired by the chief of staff. But all of this paints a very interesting picture. And so it doesn't paint long-term, like if EB calls a snap election now, how's that going to go? Because it's not going to go well, I'll tell you what, for not for the Conservatives in BC, right? So anyway, and I'm not talking about the Conservative Party, I'm talking about the actual Conservative constituents. So OneBC, that's one heck of a day, right? So what do you think is going to happen next? I think probably, I don't know that the party has enough to correct itself. But we'll see. We'll see, genuinely. And the Conservative Party's in disarray now, too. So, and EB is creating very, very poor situations on the ground for BC landowners. So, man, I genuinely don't know how this whole thing is going to play out, but it doesn't look like it's going to play out with sanity being the thing that people choose to do. Paul says the Ministry of Truth is asking for age ID verification for Substack. This is the digital Iron Curtain descending on Australia. Karen wants to be your single source of truth. So Paul says Australian independent reporter and editor of the Light newspaper banned from Substack. So there you go. This is going to happen. Only people who comply with the government's censorship will be allowed to use certain platforms on the internet. And I will rather visit small websites that don't have to comply for whatever reason. I don't know if they won't have to comply. They'll probably try and make them comply. But I'd rather visit small websites than big monolithic websites that demand digital ID, personally. Arthur Pulowski is talking about Pastor Derek Ramier. Pastor Ramier is not permitted to attend church at the Fortress in Calgary or at the Remnant in Red Deer this weekend. Attending church in Alberta, Canada is a constitutionally protected fundamental freedom under the Canadian Rights and Freedoms. Pastor Derek's parole officer, Santinder Parma, in the province of Alberta, instead is selecting a church that he sees as appropriate for Pastor Derek to attend. Read that again. In the province of Alberta, Pastor Derek cannot attend church where he chooses to attend. What are Sanditar Parmar and the Crown so afraid of? Are they afraid of praise and worship? Maybe they're afraid of the Word of God. It's the same strategy they've used for the last 5 years. Separate and isolate Christians from each other in the hope of wearing them down and silencing those that bring light to darkness. Yeah, there's a lot of problems with the way our government is targeting and using the legal system to punish people who stand up for their beliefs. And I believe he's just in jail because he refuses to offer an apology that is erroneously being demanded of the judge. Sorry, I'm not going to offer an apology that I don't believe. You can punish me, I'll do your punishment or whatever, even though I disagree with the whole premise. I don't know that I'd gladly do the punishment, but he's done the punishment, been in jail, all the rest. Now you're saying you have to say sorry? Do they demand people say sorry to the victims of murders and things like that? Is that a demand? Like, if you don't say sorry, the clock doesn't start on your life sentence, buddy. You better say sorry, right? Like, how can you demand somebody to say sorry? It's crazy. No, right? Like, when you're a child, you're learning the difference between right and wrong, and you say, now's the time to say sorry. You did something wrong, now's the time to say sorry. But if the legal system is cracked and what you did was right, and you don't believe that you owe anybody an apology, and that the legal system is being used as a cudgel against you, and now it's saying you have to say sorry, I don't think so. Shove it, right? Like, I don't think so. So we are in a terrible state in Canada, and things can only get better from here. Ooh, fingers crossed. Dr. Leslie Lewis says Bill C-9, the Liberals' hate speech bill, would fundamentally change the relationship between the state and religious Canadians. Listen, these people keep trying to reframe this as an attack on religious Canadians. It is not. It is the removal of strongly held belief as a defense. So if you say, and I've said this before, but I need to say it again because they're trying to say it's only going to target religious people. It's not. If you say that man can't be a woman, they're going to say that's hateful. And you're going to say, no, it's not. It's a strongly held belief. And that defense works now. When they pass Bill C-9, it won't. Nobody's being honest. Not Leslie Lewis, not Pierre Poilievre, not Larry Brock, not any of them. They're not being honest, or they don't know, but I can't imagine that. I'm some idiot in my garage, so if I know this, they know this, right? Dr. Leslie Lewis knows this, but she's choosing to reframe this as an attack on religious citizens. It's not. It is an attack on everybody's right to a strongly held belief and to say things that line up with that strongly held belief. That man can't be a woman, right? Like, men shouldn't be playing against women in sports. These things, they're going to say that's hateful. And you're not going to be able to say, these are the beliefs that I was raised with in Canada, and that's a strongly held belief, and you can't call that hateful. That's an expression protected by the charter. We're in very dangerous territory, and these people are not being honest with you. And I see through them, but most people don't. Anyway, we'll change the relationship between the state and religious Canadians. Nope. Laws once served as a shield protecting religious institutions and individuals from government power. Now the government seeks to sit in judgment of good faith religious beliefs and expression. C9 isn't about stopping hate. It's about giving the state power to decide which beliefs are permitted. Join us in standing up for religious freedom. Sign here. Bull poop. And the whole please sign here. The plan is make money from the people who are suckers enough to believe us. And we should have a bunch of independents who are elected to office, not political parties with their own agendas and their own deals made in the back room. Kyle Kemper is keeping us abreast of what's going on with the digital ID in Canada. He says it's right here in the app. He's responding to himself. The government of Canada has silently deployed a digital wallet on the Google Play Store. So we looked at that the other day. He says, but censorship is right in the app. It's made easy. Number 5, when access may be limited. You may not be able to use a Government of Canada wallet with a Government of Canada service if your app is out of date or does not meet maximum security requirements. Access to a Government of Canada service using Government of Canada wallet may be restricted if the service detects that your device or wallet has been misused or involved in suspicious activity. Can you imagine trying to use, like, say your digital ID is necessary for entering a mall, for example, or a grocery store. And do you think that's far-fetched? Have you noticed all the barriers going up everywhere, right? So if your digital ID is necessary and you can't use your digital ID because the digital ID service is down for whatever reason, or it's down for you because it erroneously decided that you've been involved in suspicious activity, maybe you've got a VPN on your phone, okay? And so they say, oh, I see the problem here. In order for your Government of Canada app to work, you have to uninstall the VPN on your phone. You're not allowed to have any unapproved software, but you can have unapproved software. Your Government of Canada app just won't work while the unapproved software is not on your phone or on your phone. And so what that does is requires compliance. And then when you don't have a VPN on, they'll harvest your data. And that's just one example, right? And so this is a digital prison we are building ourselves and paying tax money for and allowing leadership to get into agreements. It's the Chinese system, the Chinese 15-minute city system, and nobody wants it. But we're allowing our leaders to build it while they flood the country with migrants, while they bring in a replacement population. It's crazy. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense unless your goal is not to preserve the population in the West. You don't want that. And it seems like they sure as heck don't want that. Scary. Bruce Party is responding to Melissa. Melissa says, how's it going today? The BC government could provide direct financial assistance to property owners unable to sell, financing for those who can't obtain mortgages or loans due to the court ruling, or even to buy the properties outright as part of a settlement with the Cowichan Nation. So the government Rob Shaw is reporting, Dave Eby pledges a government backstop to private properties hit by uncertainty over Aboriginal land title declarations in the wake of the court ruling. And Bruce Party is responding to all this. He says, will the BC government do this across the province, including areas affected by its own agreements to hand over Aboriginal title or management rights like Haida Gwaii and Pender Harbour? Does everyone understand how much money this would cost and where the money would come from? Taxpayers paying gobsmacking amounts of money to government, carbon taxes, so government can give it back to them, pretending that they're providing financial assistance. The money has to come from somewhere. It certainly will not be coming from Aboriginal groups. Definitely true. Absolutely true. And again, the people who are hearing that they're going to get handouts, don't understand who the handouts are coming from. And when they complain about rising prices and their money not having the buying power that it once had, they won't understand the explanation of the impact of all of the bad policies up to now that have contributed to this. Anyway, Jordan is responding to the Globe and Mail. The Globe and Mail says BC plans $150 million in loan guarantees for private landowners in Cowichan title area. So they're gonna insure 150 homes. $150 million in loans guarantee? Do you know how much a mortgage is these days? Like, if you have a house, you're knocking on the door of $1 million, buddy. Like, one way or the $800,000 is knocking on the door of $1 million, right? So like, and it doesn't matter that it's a semi. Like, it's crazy. And $150 million in loans, that's your solution? Ha! Thanks for the joke, right? Like, you can't be serious, but they are serious, and that's a problem. Jordan says, I'm old enough to remember Eby saying that these owners will not being able to get mortgages was fake news. Because Dave Eby's a liar, because he's a politician. Brittany is responding to Trevor. Trevor says BC families and businesses now need taxpayer-backed loan guarantees just to keep financing their homes and projects. This is the fallout of Dave Eby's drip a gamble and legal chaos around property rights. Yep. And Brittany says, basically, the premier is now admitting his government created so much risk that banks will not lend without taxpayers standing behind the deal. Insane. Pretty crazy, if you ask me. Public Land Use Society says the federal government has now confirmed that First Nations do not control Canadian airspace. Do you think they did? Oh, well, yes, up until right now. This follows a situation brought to PLUS where BC First Nation empowered by the province and DRIPA asserted jurisdiction and demanded free, prior, and informed consent for all activities over claimed land. It then accused a charter flight of breaching its airspace and issued threats. Transport Canada responded to PLUS that no group may approve, deny, or impose consent requirements on aircraft operators. Canada retains exclusive jurisdiction over aeronautics, even when Aboriginal title exists. They couldn't do this to the Cowichan case? Like, hey, dummies, nope. Sorry. Big fat nope. Next. The government of Canada has provided clarity the province has refused to give. Background reporting. So you could do this. You could say this is true about the land as well. We have all of these modern legal apparatuses sounds better, in order to handle property rights here, and we're not going to invalidate all of them because you guys decided to be crazy and demand that this is your land. What makes it your land and not the land of the people you took it from, right? Like, why are you the first people who found this land, and do you have proof of that? Like, doubtful. How far back are we going? So I'm not on board with any of this, and I think the government is doing a disservice on purpose in order to destabilize our country more. Here is, speaking of destabilizing us in trade, Donald Trump he's playing chess, and Mark Carney is looking like an idiot every single day. And current report says, breaking, the United States has launched a new alliance called Pax Silica, which includes Israel, Japan, South Korea, Australia, Singapore, Netherlands, UK, and the United Arab Emirates. Why did Canada get left out? Great question. That is answered in the next part of this post. To build resilient supply chains for critical minerals and advanced technology and counter China's dominance. I was thinking the whole time I was reading it, this right up our alley. We've got tons of minerals, and we've got tons of rare earth stuff, and we've got all sorts of stuff. Oh, they want to get China out. Yeah, that's not Canada's strength anymore. Sorry. Yowza. So Donald Trump is going to economically punish Canada with potash, and this, we're not at the potash yet, but we will be in just a second, with potash and critical minerals. And Canada, there's nothing we can do about it at all. USMCA is not going to save us here. And I don't think Trump's going to stop the USMCA, but he might clip it to have maximum impact on the government, minimum impact on small business. But again, maybe that's wishful thinking. It's probably wishful thinking. Here is Wealth Moose, and he says, reports suggest the U.S. may expand potash sourcing to Belarus, which would directly challenge Canada's position and raise the risk of tariffs or price pressure on Saskatchewan exports. This could reshape North American fertilizer markets fast. Yeah, Sure could. Absolutely, 100%. Here's table salt. Major breaking: Donald Trump checkmates Canada by opening up potash trade from Belarus. Here comes the tariffs on Saskatchewan potash. Wow, he said that the other day. I played that video. So, yikes. Again. And again, it's bad policy leading to, and narcissistic, short-sighted policy that's blaming Donald Trump for all the ills of the world and ignoring all of their very active hands in creating the policies that are causing the issues in the first place. I digress. We've got to say goodbye to the stream in a minute, but I wanted to talk about this because it's interesting. Peter says, this guy's from Australia. I wonder where these political parties and these politicians are in Canada. Are they somewhere? Are they hiding under a rock? Are they too afraid to come out? Do they think everything's fine? Is our system that irrevocably broken? It might be. I really don't think an election is the way to solve the problem. I think arresting the current government would be the best first step in order to, and I'm not talking like willy-nilly arresting, like me walking in there and arresting people, but actioning laws that are already on the books for treasonous activities, human rights violations vis-a-vis forcing people to take a vaccine over top of their charter rights and firing people for not taking the vaccine. We need to have accountability, right? Like I don't think that people can get all in a tizzy because they think I'm calling for violence, and that's not necessarily it. I don't want to call for violence. I want to call for accountability for these people who obviously broke the law, and that's just scratching the surface because there's a whole bunch we don't know because they've been in control of the government and law enforcement and the levers of power and the wheels of justice. They've been in control of that for a long, long time, and so the stuff we know is just a small fraction of what's actually gone on. And I think once we start pulling back the layers and exposing this stuff, a lot of people would go to jail. But again, it's very difficult, and there's no political will to do any of it. And so, right, we're kind of stuck. We'll do this, and then I've got to say goodbye to the stream. Peter says the One Nation policy platform: withdraw from the United Nations, withdraw from the WEF, withdraw from the WHO, abolish the Climate Change Council, cut the NDIS, cut migrant numbers, reinvest in coal-fired power stations. The best policy set I've seen from an Australian political party. It's not hard. Stop the madness. Right? Like, where's the Stop the Madness party? Jill is talking about the same Australian party. She says Pauline Hanson has just unveiled a $90 billion plan to save Australia, in which I don't think you need $90 billion. I bet you I could do it for a fraction of the money these people are saying they need. Betcha. I betcha. Anyway, $90 billion to save Australia. I could do it for less. In which she proposes withdrawing from the United Nations, the WHO, and the WEF, abolishing the Department of Climate Change, heavily cutting NDIS funding to support only those who truly need it. Nope. Truly need it? Interesting. How many dead people are collecting these assets? Get out of here. Truly need it. Cut it. All gone. Within just 24 hours, One Nation's support surged to 19%, the highest level in the party's history. The plan promises to save $90 billion each year. Okay, there you go. To return money to Australians, invest in coal power, and to slash electricity prices by 30% and build more dams and railways instead of paying globalists. Immediately after the announcement, Pauline Hanson's 9-word message spread rapidly across the country. So, yeah, good. I didn't realize they were saving $90 billion a year. That's some good messaging. Well, the messaging is confusing, but that's some good messaging. If you have $90 billion that you're going to save, that's a very, very good so what to taxpayers. They'll pay attention to somebody who says they can save them $90 billion. Anyway, with that, we've got to say goodbye to the stream. There's a kitchen table talk today. If you're interested, I've already sent the email. But if you want to join, just shoot me an email and I'll get you the link. If you want the whole show, head over to Canada